Buenas, de regreso aquí con Jesús Hoyos de CRM en Latinoamérica, CX2 Advisory con el episodio de todos los viernes, Tomando Café con Jesús Hoyos, donde tenemos pues diferentes proveedores del mundo de CRM, Martech y todo lo que tiene que ver con Customer Experience. Y hoy nos vamos a tomar un café, vamos a hablar de café y de inteligencia artificial con Severence, que él es el CEO y fundador de DeLorean AI. Ya mismo voy a dejar ya mismo voy a cambiar el inglés y vamos a empezar por ahí, pero los disclaimers, bueno, hoy está lloviendo, tengo los perros ladrando, que si ladran por ahí, y Severance está en Texas. Espero que la internet no se caiga, pero ya saben, esto es lo que pasa, y como ya saben, estamos en LinkedIn, estamos en YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, y eventualmente podamos tener esto en las plataformas podcast y en Instagram. ¿Okay? Y bueno, con esto pues vamos ahora a cambiar a inglés. Good morning, good afternoon.
Hey,
Severance, how you doing? Welcome.
¿Cómo estás? I'm doing well. Mucho bueno. That's the extent of my Spanish, unfortunately. But I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. This is I'm excited to talk about artificial intelligence in Mexico and Latin America, and yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna let Lawrence, talk a little bit, what he's doing. But we met through our connections. So he's and through the pandemic, we were supposed to get back in touch and talk and do a bunch of stuff. But a couple of weeks ago, 30 days, 60 days ago, we met again at the Ray One book tour, the first city here in Boca Raton, and we decided to connect. And he has something interesting that I think you should know what he's doing. Especially, he's doing artificial intelligence in Mexico. So I'm going to let him talk about that. But first of all, tell us who you are and why AI, and then we're going to talk about coffee, and then definitely, we're going to discuss AI.
Well, no, thanks, Jesus. And a big fan. And yes, working with Ray Wang. So his book has just come out too. Everybody Wants to Rule the World. So I highly suggest that as a good book for the digital transformation. But yeah, my name is Severence MacLaughlin. I'm the CEO and founder of DeLorean Artificial Intelligence. And I've been 20 years in the AI business. And prior to this, I was, there's the book from Ray. I suggest it if you're going through digital transformation, it will save your life. And before this, I was chief of intelligence for Capgemini Group. So I oversaw all of the AI in the Western Hemisphere. So from Chile all the way up to Canada. And that's how I started working in Mexico in AI. And before that, I was the global head of AI for Cognizant Technology Services for healthcare and life sciences. And before that, I had my little company that Cognizant was able to acquire. But the reason why AI and I left Jesus is, I was sick of showing slides to my clients, and I wanted to develop a product of AI. So that's what I did. I went out and I put my money where my mouth was, and now we're in market and we're doing some great things with CRM and B2B sales.
So knowing that, are you a heavy coffee drinker or?
Yes. They put it in my veins. So I come from the Boston area, Jesus. So I grew up on Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh.
And, America runs on Dunkin', but then my palate has changed to Starbucks and trying some of the better Colombian brands. But whilst I'm in the middle of Texas, my in-laws or whatnot on the ranch, we're doing Folgers right now. So
because you're your in-laws,
Yes.
But it's funny. I mean, I know you've been to Mexico City, and there's some sections in Reforma that all of a sudden you say, wait, hold on, I feel like in Boston because there's a Dunkin' Donuts in every corner, and a Starbucks and Cielito Querido, and there's a bunch of coffee places in Reforma. Pick one, pick the coffee that you like, and there's plenty places to have a good coffee.
No, I mean we went out to dinner with some of our colleagues from Grupo Bimbo, and the coffee at the restaurant. So the food in Mexico is unbelievable, like bringing out the meat, and there's something that they call Mexican caviar. I don't know the exact words, but it is the most delicious thing I have ever tasted. So yes, and it paired well with coffee. So
excellent. Yeah, I'm I don't know. This is like my 20th. I'm black coffee guy, but I drink this 24/7. And and right now, I have a fellow coworker out of Colombia that she was here a couple of weeks ago, and she brought me this coffee from Colombia. It's called Amor Perfecto, Perfect Love.
Oh,
And it has a fruity flavor. So that this one is grapefruit. So it's different. It's different. So it's mild. So and it has sort of a kick. So. Well, this is like, I don't know, my 20th cup today.
Have you ever tried? I think it's Blue Mountain coffee from Jamaica.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that a friend of mine.
I have. We usually go to the small bodegas, here in South Florida, but there is a supermarket where I live. It's called Bravo, and it's half Caribbean, half Latin American, and there is an aisle of all coffee from everywhere.
Wow.
You're like, which one? And they have the ground and they have the beans. So it's perfect. They have everything. So, and now I have different places. I buy from a place in Brampton, Puerto Rico. It's a website. There's another one called Cuela, and of course Amazon. You can find all coffee from all over. But what I do is that when I travel, it doesn't matter where I go and buy the local coffee. So it's funny because last week, last episode with Tomando Café, or two priors, I forgot, but I went to see my daughter up in Maryland, DC area. So we went to this small town, to this farmers market, and I found in there a local, coffee with beans from Peru, Colombia, and Ecuador.
Huh.
So it was perfect. I bought a couple, then I brought them back, so that's good. So perfect. So now AI, now that we know your background and we talk about coffee, okay, there's a couple of questions that I want to ask you, particularly, about, why AI versus no AI, why, AI, external AI engine versus the one that you have, embedded in your CRM, the one that comes with the CRM systems. And CRM system, could be your marketing automation, could you be your sales service, your outbound, your marketing cloud that you have out there. And then I would like to talk a little bit about the conception of having the data clean, what that means as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so why AI versus not doing AI? Because people are gonna say, no, I'm still surviving with what I have. Why do I need to do AI? I'm thinking, the old thinking.
Yeah, and I think that's that's not only in the US, but it's also some of that thinking is in, at least I've seen it in Mexico, and I've also started working in Colombia, and it's trepidation, right? Like, do I want to do this? It's scary, but I'm going to unpack that a little bit. So number one is, I believe this AI and the utilization to be an evolutionary event, Jesus, or a Darwin event. If you don't start adopting it soon, you may be out of business, right? And I say that, and an example I'll give you, not Kodak, the film company, versus the iPhone, right? Kodak was wiped out, in days, months, less than a year. It was decimated. Now, like 5 years ago when I was at Cognizant, I was their VP of data sciences, it would take me 5 different conversations with a C-level or an executive and say, data science is important. You really need to start investing in this. And fast forward to today, that
Lo perdimos. Lawrence, I think we lost you.
Important.
There we go.
Oh, sorry.
Continue.
Oh, back. Number one is 60% of AI executives know they need it. They know they need to invest in it. They may not understand it, but they know they have to invest. And the real powerful thing is the executives, at least in the US and some of the top companies in Mexico, are now earmarking dollars specifically for AI. So for instance, there's a number of major automotive brands in Mexico who are putting AI dollars in to better serve their customers. Grupo Bimbo, huge leader in Mexico in terms of applying artificial intelligence. We know Coca-Cola FEMSA, we know Grupo Ardez, Hershey's. They're all looking at this to maximize not only their sales, but decrease their wastages. So the need is there. We know it's there. People are investing in it. The challenge, Jesus, is for the executive, the guy that has the money. Now, where do I spend it? Where do I put my chips on the table so I get a return on investment? And the challenge is that 65% of AI projects currently do not return an ROI. And that's the challenge for the executives. So what we did at DeLorean, and I'm encouraging, other, doesn't have to be us, but other companies is, invest and tested. I work very closely with Microsoft and Azure and work, you also need I call it the triangle. You need the AI, you need a platform cloud such as Microsoft Azure, and then you need a systems integrator, right, to help you through this. And, Capgemini Mexico, NTT Data, very important partners in those areas.
So saying that, what would be the reason, what will be that evolution? If you will tell me today, hey, you got to do this first, meaning, put some people in training so they understand, I don't know, Python and R, and then do this and then do that. What would be the first steps that, a company needs to do? Because usually, what I tell people when they need to be early adopters with all these smart tech technologies, it just, create a team that will go out there and they're going to fail,
Yeah,
and they're going to buy a bunch of technologies, or they do freeware, or they do open source, freemium, whatever that is, and play, understand what it is, and see the future and trying to do something today. So you learn from that point of view. Would you suggest that with AI?
Yeah, I think there's two things that you bring up. So number one is, you do need to have an internal person or team that is knowledgeable. And I would highly suggest, don't be cheap on this. Buy someone that's good, spend money on that head. And this person should not be reporting to the chief information officer, right? They should have a seat at that level, right? IT, technology, AI, data science, and allow that person, he or she, to form a really good young team, right? I can't say enough about some of the universities in Mexico and other parts of South America that are producing some really good data scientists. Guadalajara, awesome program. University of Buenos Aires, awesome program. The Argentine data scientists are really cheap right now because of the economy. So I see a lot of companies buying those. So you should have that team, number one. Number two is that you have to have the vision, and you have to start. You got to walk before you got to crawl before you walk before you run. And, you had asked earlier about the data cleansing, and I had, not really touched that, but we call it the data lifecycle value chain. So you've got to be able to acquire the data. Maybe that's from Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, or maybe that's from websites or whatnot. So you acquire the data, you merge the data together so it works well in a cloud platform, and then you have to clean it, right? And then it has to get ready. And once it gets ready, you can visualize it, and then you can do basic analytics, and you're getting value out of both of those. But not until you do both, then you should start looking at AI. And AI is going to be able to give you like leverage on being able to predict, where, like, what products for your POS that you should have in CPG. Or in a hotel, it may be, what's your fill rate, or how do I contact my customer base to drive a better fill rate, right? Or what marketing campaign will resonate with people before sending it out to get the maximum number of stays in the hotel. Or another one is in retail banking. What we're seeing in Mexico is that you might have a retail bank that has depositors, but they're not using their insurance or their credit card. So it's being able to mathematically model their clients who are depositors and be able to offer them the right services for them to convert over and buy the process. So it's driving both top line growth and bottom line savings.
But, hey, I can do that with BI, regular BI. I have a data warehouse. I have, a bunch of people who know how to run my reports, and they put some data mining stuff out there. Why do I have to do that?
Well, firstly, I would applaud the organizations that are at that point where they're using BI, they're using Power BI, they're using the reports or whatnot. So good on you. And it's your data, as I tell people, is like a garden, right? Voltaire in French would say you must constantly tend your garden, and that's what data is. In terms of AI and why do you want it? Think about the BI that you just said, Jesus, and analytics and reports is looking backwards, right? It's looking in the past and it's applying the learnings of the past to now. What AI is doing is that's great, but we're going to tell you what's happening in the future, right? So it's like, what we do, our patent is predictive and interventive intelligence. So we can predict that a certain changaro will need to have X number of Coca-Cola cans, X number of diet, X number of orange, 2 loaves of white bread from Bimbo. And if they buy a loaf of white Bimbo bread, there's a 69% chance they'll buy orange soda in this changaro. So it's predicting with a probability of what will happen in the future. And what is the next best action? So, for example, we know that there'll be, an issue with a trade route or a shipment route. So the AI can then predict to alter the path to go around an accident, or to if there is an issue in terms of safety or whatnot. So it does next best action to drive a sale, to drive safety. That's the difference.
Okay, and that's what I was asking the question, because there is a lot of unknowns. There is a lot of information out there. AI, machine learning, and deep learning, all that stuff. Everybody's throwing that out there, but people need to understand what that is, and they have to put it, in the context of their own data garden, like you're saying.
And it's important in the data garden. A couple things there is the data garden is not only your data, right? Now we have the opportunity to look at data that's outside. So that's external data, and that could be something you buy from Nielsen, or you could buy a client list, but you can also get your weather patterns. You can get, government reports. You can get video feeds, social media feeds. And that's where the more advanced data science tools, and what we're seeing now is companies are bringing all those together, and that's hyper personalized, hyper enriched data. And it is happening right now in Mexico and South America. We're working with a couple clients that are doing that. In the US, I think they're a little bit more advanced, but not in terms of tending to their data. But like I would say, you need to do your data cleansing, and then you do your basic AI, and then you can start getting some of the really fun stuff with all these different data sources to predict any different things. To where can I sell more goods? How do I decrease my wastage? How do I decrease the gas associated with my delivery trucks? So
yeah. So let's go to the next topic, because you have your own company, you have your own product, DeLorean AI. And then we have all the other AI that comes with with the CRM system, the marketing automation, the call centers. But let me put this in perspective. You have Salesforce, that they have Einstein. But let's assume you only have Sales Cloud. Okay, mm-hmm. Then you have the Einstein. And you can activate it, and they charge you, and you can use it. Sugar CRM, they bought a company called Node AI, and they're embedding that internally. Then you have the Abayas and a lot of the call center companies in the cloud that they already have partnerships, with Microsoft, Google, Amazon, to use their AI, Watson and so on. So there's different flavors out there. Then you have C3 AI, which is owned, stipulated, still owned by Tom Siebel, the founder of Siebel.
Yeah.
And they put together a excellent partnership, with Microsoft, Adobe, I don't know who else, So you have all these flavors, and you mentioned that you have your data garden, you can bring all that data from outside. And in traditional, you mentioned the triangle, you have a cloud platform, you have the AI solution. I forgot what was the third one.
Is the systems integrator.
the system integrator.
Yep.
Okay. So what does it mean, in the marketing, especially to what you're doing, because you have a really niche component. I'm extremely surprised that you're doing stuff in Mexico and other places in Latin America with the AI. What that means. Why go with DeLorean AI, and versus the AI that already comes with the CRM system.
Yeah, I mean, so you bring up another interesting point, like why Mexico, why South America? I'm a gringo, and like why would America? So number one is I believe Mexico and the South American, Latin American markets are very, very important, especially for the United States. I believe as a person in the U.S., we should be focused on our side of the world rather than other places. So I believe in working hand in hand. I think the markets in South America, Latin America, and Mexico are going to boom, right? I think they're going to go big in this century, and I want to be part of it. So that's number one. And I love working in Mexico. I love Grupo Bimbo. I love Capgemini Mexico. I love Microsoft Mexico. Great people, fantastic to work with, and great experience. So now back to the AI. The term artificial intelligence, Jesus, is used very loosely. And I think people use it to try to sell advanced analytics when they shouldn't. And to me, the definition of AI is that it can predict something will happen in the future. It will tell you what the next best action you have to do to make a good decision. And number three is sentience, is the ability for the AI to think, make a decision. Now, right now, we're probably at the best AI is only thinking like a 4-year-old or a golden retriever or a chimp, and that's okay. So I can tell you the majority of the AIs that you've just talked about don't have that capability. Now, more specifically,
why is that?
Because they're not engineering their data science tools together, I guess, the right way. I'm happy to help them, but I think that's a good question. So if you go to IBM Watson should win an award for marketing. The people that marketed IBM Watson were unbelievable. My mother knew what IBM Watson was. She assumed IBM Watson came in this cube and you just plug it into your computer and all this AI. And there's a failure there, and it hurt the AI business because of that failure. Because what IBM did is they took algorithms from all of their CPG companies and they standardized them and they put them in this product. But what works for you won't work for me, and it wasn't predicting the future. It wasn't making best next actions. Now, if you look at Salesforce, right? So Salesforce, we got to give a lot of credit to. They did an unbelievable job in bringing CRM platforms to the masses in a cost-effective manner. But my belief is that these CRM platforms are only their digital, their fancy databases with visualizations. There's no true AI there. And Einstein is failing, right? Usually what Salesforce would do is that they would say at Dreamforce, hey, we're going to do this in 2 years. And they said this in 2016, they haven't achieved it. And with Einstein, they cannot predict if a deal will go from one stage to the next. And what we're also seeing with Einstein and the Marketing Cloud is that, and this is very unusual, and I know this for one Mexican, very large company is actually leaving Salesforce Cloud. You don't hear about that, but they're actually leaving because they bought the Marketing Cloud, they bought Einstein, and it's not working, or they can't use it, but they're paying for it. So coming back to, there's alternatives.
I'm listening to you, and besides, talking about, having the proper people, the technology and everything, I think in the market, because everything is too early, I think there's a commercial issue out there of how to sell AI, I think, and that's probably, because we're running too fast and we're not paying attention, being Einstein, Watson, or any of those names out there in the market, I think to, still the market hasn't matured enough to understand how to sell AI.
So I would agree with that. As I think it's on both sides of the fence. Is that, does the customer understand what they're buying, and are the people selling it understand that are they actually selling real AI? Jesus, or are they just selling advanced analytics. I mean, let me give you this story. When I was at Cognizant in December 2016, I had 500 data scientists worldwide, and maybe 100 of them were real data scientists. The next day on January 1st, 2017, we had 5,000 data scientists because we just transferred their titles from analyst to data scientist. So I think there is something there. I think the issue is, at least with our technology, CRM AI, our technology, when the deal comes into the Salesforce platform, and our technology sits on top of Salesforce, Microsoft 365, Pega, SAP, it doesn't matter what the platform is. When the deal comes in, we can predict, will the deal win or lose? Yes or no? And if it's going to lose or die, where in the pipeline does it die and why? And what's the next best action to take to get it to the next level or the next stage? And that's the power, right? Like, we can increase your sales about 15% on average. And that's the power there is. And the other power, Jesus, is unstructured data. So part of our technology, it sits on the back end of Salesforce or Microsoft or whatnot, and it sucks the data out, all the data, not only the structured data, but all your emails, all your calendar invites, all your Word documents, your PowerPoints, and it sucks it all into a database. I prefer Azure on Microsoft. And then we put the model to it, and it models that unstructured data. And that's where the gold is. I'm telling you, that's where the gold is.
So, so if you bring all the data, you acquire all that data from the CRM system, and you mentioned, deals, opportunities, could you correlate, the data that, you mentioned, unstructured, emails, activities, especially the activity object in the CRM system, that let's assume that I have marketing automation, I have the outbound marketing, I have the call center, everything goes into activities. I have the opportunity, if I'm doing direct to consumer, I have the shopping cart,
Yep.
and the contact. I can, because the structured data that you have in a CRM system today might not be a structure. Forget the email.
Yeah.
But I'm talking, your notes, the way, naming conventions, data quality. There's a lot of stuff that, vendors and call center people, because they have to be effective, they're going to make 200 workarounds just to enter the data and look good. So even though you have all these controls in your CRM system, the data within the objects is still on a structure somehow. So not only, you can not only look at the data within that object of opportunity, but you can look at anything out there within the CRM system.
Yeah, well, so my first thing is that every customer I talk to says, well, our data is awful. I'm like, well, let me look at it. I don't believe there's bad data, Jesus. It just hasn't been loved enough, right? I like to love data.
I agree with that statement.
And the other thing is, you got to start somewhere. And what we usually see is there's more gold than dirt in this unstructured data. And not only we, but our partners, they can help dig that out. So I wouldn't let that stop you from that. And the powerful thing is, like you said, it is correlated. Like, our system can tell you, well, for this customer, marketing should send emails. For this customer, it should be an application notification or a text. So we have a technology called Customer 360, and it mathematically models your customer, so you know how to contact them, in what channel, so text, email, mail, call, at what time, with what message to drive conversion. And that's the cool thing with all that, right? And I think you're right that it's scary, but we're moving to that way. We're moving to what they call hyper personalization, right? So
whatever that means.
Well, it means something. I mean, that question that you just asked is great. It means something different to every different consumer. For example, we're working with an automotive company that has dealerships in Mexico. And what we can do now is that we can tell you, okay, Severance, before I walk in the door, he's going to want an SUV. So don't try to sell him a sedan or a sports car. And we can even tell you what salesperson in that dealership should be dealing with him. And how do you follow up? Do you call him? Do you send an email? Or do you send the car to Severance for a week to drive? Because that will give him a 30% increase opportunity to buy it. And this company is so smart, Jesus. They're carrying on that CRM to the next level for services. So oil changes, tires, because they see the value of that relationship over time, not only with the purchase, but the service and then the next purchase.
So let me ask you this in terms of CRM, going back, the AI engine that you have versus the one that I have on my CRM.
Yeah.
So let me give you, two examples with Salesforce. I have Salesforce and I have all the clouds. I have Pardot, I have Social Studio, I have Sales Cloud, I have Marketing Cloud. Okay, and different objects, different data models, and everything. And then if I have different customer, but I have Salesforce, I have the Service Cloud, but I'm using Marketo for marketing automation. I'm using something else for outbound marketing, and I have, I don't know, HotSuite for social media, and I have a bunch of other tools. So even though Salesforce is the heart of the operation because I'm using the CRM tool, you still can sit in top of those two scenarios, and trying to identify Jesús Hoyos. Okay, I'm not talking here that you're doing a CDP or master data management, but you're going to try to identify who Jesús Hoyos is and be able to predict, a future behavior. Is that something that you can do with DeLorean AI?
Yes, yeah. So what you're asking is, so the next stage after you implement what we call CRM AI is the next question the executives usually ask is, well, we have this other data, our social media data. Oh, we have our marketing data. Yeah. So what we do is we bring in tertiary, we call it tertiary data, and we bring that into the model. Now, in the situation that you just mentioned, Jesus, where you have different vendors or tools for different things, what you have to do is you have to bring that into a cloud platform. Again, I prefer Azure, right? Microsoft. And so we suck all of that data into Azure, and then we start the modeling. And this is where we mathematically model that hyper-personalized customer or client. Now, we are doing this right now. I mean, there's a Mexican client that is doing exactly what you just said. And I would say that they are probably ahead of the United States in their thought process in doing that. So it is being done.
And I know many like that in Latin America, big and small companies. Now, knowing that we have another 5 or 6 minutes, let me ask you this. So you have it in the cloud, you do your AI, but I need to act on it. I need to do something with that data.
Yeah.
What is the process to identify that, and bring that information into the journeys or the phone calls or the emails that I need to send, or put it in Pardot, or put it, in Sales Cloud to make a phone call. How do you bring all that data back so again, you can act on it?
Good question. So, what we have now is that, and I don't like using the word dashboards, Jesus, but we have a customer interaction or client interaction portfolio. And so it starts off at the executive level, so C level, and it drills down to the next level, and then manager, and then the final salesperson. So they access this page and they can tell you by client, by deal, by car, by customer, exactly what they have to do. And that's how they interact. Now, so there is a complete interaction. And what's beautiful, Jesus, is it prioritizes what the salesperson needs to do each day to get the most ROI. So call Severance, set up an appointment to talk about the new Mercedes. Have CEO email Jesus to set up a meeting with his CEO. So those actions, that's how it's brought back. Now, in terms of the company, I'm a big believer that the business user needs to be able to easily digest this information to make good decisions. So if they are using Salesforce, we would emulate Salesforce's dashboard so it looks the same, so they feel like it's the same thing. If they're using Power BI, we would use Power BI, right? And that's how they would use it. Or we just integrate it back back into whatever their cloud or whatever the reports are. And we can integrate almost into any other system. So.
Excellent. This is interesting. I think I need to bring you back because we need to do a deep dive, you know, there's a lot of education that we have to do out there. So, Severance, how people find you, you know?
Oh, well, number one is I'm the only Severance on LinkedIn. So just Google Severance. Another one is I'm DeLorean Artificial Intelligence at DeLorean AI. Our website is www.deloreanai.com, and we also have the same for our LinkedIn page. You can go see our products online. Again, they're proven, they're tested, they're in the market. We'd love to show it to you, and we'd love to work with you and our partners. So Capgemini, NTT, Microsoft, you, Jesus. So and I'd love to get down there. And if you're in another country besides Mexico, I'd love to visit down in your beautiful nation as well.
Perfect. Yeah, there's too many to pick from. You know, I have, you know, la we call in Spanish. I have mi primera casa y mi segunda casa. You know, so sometimes my first house is the airline. You know,
well, I would agree with that. I'm getting back up to the flight, but I'm excited with I'm excited to go to Colombia is one of the ones I want to go to, and then Peru, and then of course I'm a big Argentine fan for horses, and red wine and meat. So.
Polo. Oh,
yes,
perfect.
yes.
Yeah, perfect, excellent. So, Severance, thank you very much. Don't go. Bueno, I'm going to switch now to Spanish. Pues ya que escucharon, hablamos de AI, hablamos de lo que es AI y lo que hay que empezar a fomentar un poco la cultura y empezar a sembrar y traer recursos buenos. Y lo que dijo Severance, no se vayan baratos, tráiganse recursos que sepan para poder movernos rápido con el tema de AI. Bueno, y él habló pues la diferencia entre AI de su plataforma con las que vienen ya con los CRM, ¿no? Entonces, pues, le aconsejo que lo chequen. Este ha sido Jesús Hoyos de CRM en Latinoamérica con Tomando Café. Así que nos vemos la semana que viene. No estoy ahora los martes haciendo conversaciones de CRM hasta 30, 60 días por ahí, pero estoy todos los viernes pues con Tomando Café. Nos vemos por ahí. Muchas gracias. Cuídense. Severance, thank you so much.